Thanks so much, Ryan. Really appreciate it. And should you want to interject as I'm going, having experienced what we do, please feel free, because there's nothing more enlightening than firsthand experience with what we do. So
you bet. Appreciate it.
It is amazing. It's wonderful. I'm very proud to represent something like this. Basically, what it's all about, as Ryan just indicated, is Tahiti and French Polynesia are not really as remote and extreme as a lot of people think, even though they are remarkably isolated in their own way. But distance-wise, I'll talk about that and getting there. There is one thing that I think is really important to point out first off. When I do presentations, especially for clients, potential clients, when I start off, I always ask kind of the same question, because I get this very strong impression over the years that I've been with the company that people think of Hawaii and Tahiti and the groups of islands as being somewhat similar. They're both in the Pacific. They're both beautiful, both tropical destinations, both wonderful open arm greetings when you get there. There's a huge difference, though, in terms of the numbers of people that visit each of them. This is, to me, a jaw-dropping statistic that I can't get over, which is more people visit the islands of Hawaii in 1 week than visit all of the islands of French Polynesia and Tahiti, of which there are 118, by the way, combined in 1 year. So the vast difference in numbers of visitors is enormous, and it makes a huge difference in terms of what you experience down there, because as Ryan can attest, when you're in the South Pacific, whatever island you're on is going to be uncrowded, open, beaches that almost feel like your own private beach because there's so few people on them, if anyone, when you might be on it. And so the destination is so full of culture and authenticity. I don't mean to diminish Hawaii in any way, shape, or form. It's not a better or worse. Everybody's got their preference. People aren't wrong by going to Hawaii. I've been there many times and loved it. So it isn't that. It's just that there is a distinct difference between the two in terms of that, the sheer numbers. And I always reiterate, if you want 2:30 a.m. nightlife, that kind of thing, then Hawaii, Waikiki, that's going to be your choice there. It's not going to really be the Tahiti style and culture of French Polynesia, that late night thing. But Tahiti's never boring, never dull, and so remarkably beautiful that it's truly intoxicating. So our ship has been there for 23 years. We've been sailing there since 1998. The ship was designed for this destination. And I like to use this map here to kind of isolate where Tahiti is. A lot of people aren't certain, and that's totally understandable because Tahiti is so far from other places that it can't pinpoint it on a map and say, well, it's off the coast of, or just west of, or something like that. Where you see in the middle of the map there, the capital of Tahiti, on the island of Tahiti, is Papeete, which Ryan said is where we embark and disembark the ship, depending on which itinerary you go on. But as you can see, it's literally smack dab in the middle of 4 continents: Asia, Australia, North America, and South America. And as a result, there isn't any guiding post of some kind that shows you where it is. But I think it's very important to point out that despite the fact that it is far away in that sense, it's still the same time zone as Hawaii, the same time zone as Honolulu. It's just directly south, as you can see Honolulu there. So from the West Coast, LA is where we have our inclusive air packages from on Air Tahiti Nui. So it is a seamless package, air, cruise, all inclusive on board, which I'll talk about. But the West Coast to Honolulu is about 5 hours. To get to Papeete and to Tahiti from the West Coast is about 8 to 8.5. So it's literally 3 hours beyond. It's just not that much more once you're on the plane. And when you get to where you get to, you'll see a dramatic difference between the Hawaiian experience. If there was one island that I would compare the most closely in Hawaii to Tahiti and the general vicinity of those islands, it would be Kauai, I think, just because of the less visited aspect and that beautiful mountainous jungle, very tropical definition to it. So that is where Tahiti's located. And the reason I point that out again is sometimes people think that it's such a long way to go that they're going to be jet lagged beyond belief when they get there. They might even pass the date line. They're going to be on a different time zone that they can't adjust to for days. It's really not that way at all. Same time zone as Hawaii, as I pointed out. I think it's really important to point out this too. One of the blessings of Tahiti and French Polynesia is it is so remote and it is so off the beaten path, so to speak, and so untouched in so many ways. That's what makes it so desirable in many aspects, but it also makes it one of the most expensive places to travel to literally in the world, because so much has to be brought in from so far away, and that contributes obviously to the cost. So we are the only fully all-inclusive experience in all of French Polynesia or Tahiti. We are from the get-go, from Jump Street, it's going to be air included out of LAX. You don't have to book it with air. You can fly from Honolulu on Hawaiian Air. There are other ways to get there. But if you want the most seamless experience, you would book it all-inclusive, cruise and air from Los Angeles on Air Tahiti Nui. Once you get to the ship, transfers, of course, included to get you there. All your meals are included. We have 3 dining venues with distinctly different menus in each of them. All your cocktails, wines, spirits are included. There's a mini bar in each of our staterooms, which is refreshed with whatever you're going through on a daily basis, which could be bottled waters, Diet Coke, Pepsi, so forth, beer, anything that you use will be replenished every day. All your gratuities are included, so none expected to be given to the staff. And I will talk about the staff in a moment. They are our secret sauce. They're really what makes us as special and unique as we are. But it's very important, this value proposition. When you do get on the ship, you're not worried about how much that's going to cost, this dinner, this restaurant. Putting all these things together a la carte on your own and a land stay would be much more challenging in terms of the price point that you would get to. And this is still a 5+ star luxury experience that we deliver. Wonderful, wonderful staff and crew and service level. Now, speaking of the staff and crew, this is a little perspective on them. They are extraordinary in what they do. They're so kind, they're so outgoing, so engaged, so friendly and warm, but it's a different style of luxury cruise experience than you might find on some of the other lines. I worked for Crystal Cruises for 9 years, Seabourn Cruise Line for 7, exceptional cruise lines. I was just very, very proud to represent them, 6+ star, 6-star luxury. This is very much in that realm of that level of delivery of service, but it's a much more relaxed style. So as opposed to that buttoned up art of European service, which Seabourn, Crystal, and other lines of that nature deliver intentionally, of course, that's the way it's supposed to be done. This is much more informal, but still very high end. So as opposed to greeting a couple, say, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson get on board the Paul Gauguin, when they arrive for dinner and are shown to their table, it's not going to be Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, how are you? Good evening. It's going to be, oh, Mr. Jim, Miss Elaine, how are you tonight? Come on in. It's that kind of a thing. It's never over the top and it's never crosses any barrier between staff and crew. It's just a very kind, informal, yet high-end way to deliver our service level. And they're so genuine. And that's what I truly love about it. Speaking of that, that kind of crosses over into dress code as well. We're a very informal yet stylish kind of experience. So you'll definitely pack a lighter suitcase on a Paul Gauguin cruise because no jackets, no ties required for gentlemen. It's stylish, as I said, but more Tommy Bahama in the evening, say, than Hugo Boss or something. So it's a wonderful, wonderful style experience, but still very understated in terms of too much dress, I would say. Now, on the upper part of this photo, this slide, this is important to point out. We also, in addition to our normal staff and crew all over the ship, we have a group of about 6 or 7 young ladies and young men who are the French Polynesians from the local area that work on the ship. They're called les Gauguin or les Gauguin, depending on their gender. And they are just lovely. They're playing music, as you can see here, throughout the course of the ship on board. They'll be on stage in the evenings doing entertainment with dance, music, cultural entertainment. They're kind of ambassadors of their culture on the ship and kind of co-hosts with our staff to make sure our guests are having a wonderful experience, meeting and greeting, leading into the shore excursions, just being a part of the ship life throughout the course of the vacation people are taking on our ship. They're beautiful people physically, but just beautiful in their soul as well. Really proud of their culture and really want to share it with our guests. And it's very genuine and apparent whenever you deal with them and see them throughout the course of your cruise. Now, the ship itself, as Ryan mentioned briefly, is a smaller ship, but it's not a tiny little ship. It's almost 20,000 tons, yet only has 330 guests. So this is wonderful because it has a great space ratio. And so you have so much room to move around deck space. You don't have to claim a chaise lounge and then keep it all day with your towel and your cap on it so no one else will use it. There's plenty of those available. The ship itself just came out of a refurbishment within the last week or so, just came out of a dry dock. And as a result, the ship is in incredible, almost brand new condition. Decor was redone, technology was redone. So now, in fact, we're offering complimentary Wi-Fi throughout the ship for the entire stay, as much as you care to use it. The suites and staterooms, I won't go through all of them because there's too many different categories to show, but they go up to almost 600 square feet with our owners and grand suites. And then none of them are inside staterooms. Everything at least has a picture window with a porthole. This is key. There are 220 staff and crew for 332 guests. So that 1 to 1.5 crew to guest ratio is one of the highest of any cruise lines. And then I will talk about the onboard Watersports Marina as we move forward a little, because that's a key for those people that are active and want to take part in the scuba, snorkeling, kayaking, stand-up paddleboarding, things of that nature. Now, just to finish with this slide, that photo on the left is very important. It's a key picture, actually, in what I'll show you today, because as I mentioned, the ship was designed specifically for these islands. Doesn't go anywhere else in the world. We don't go to the Panama Canal. We don't go to the Mediterranean. We don't go to Alaska. Only here in the Pacific Rim, French Polynesia, and that area. So it has a shallow draft, which enables us to get in much tighter, as you can see in this photo here, to the islands than larger ships will ever be able to get to as they're traversing the Pacific, whether on their way to Australia or world cruise or whatever it may be. And that's hugely important because you can almost reach out and touch this lush, beautiful vegetation from the ship. And 70% of these accommodations have verandas or balconies. So just to be able to open those doors, have that fresh air come in, see the visual of these stunningly beautiful islands really makes that an impactful part of the experience too. The other thing that I was going to mention is I'll talk about the island of Bora in a moment, but this is a perfect example of having that shallow draft, because Bora, which we spent 2 full days on, and that's a key too, is surrounded by a coral reef almost all the way around the island, except there's one gap in the reef through which we can take our ship, and larger ships cannot access through that gap in the reef. So they're going to have to anchor and tender from outside the reef through it, while we're already anchored inside of it. Again, that's a key point because of that shallow draft that we are designed for the island specifically here. Now, we have about 7 categories, as I mentioned, of cabin staterooms, but this is kind of the middle point, C, D category, because we go from 600 square feet to porthole windows. But in the middle, so to speak, are these ones, which are beautiful verandas, balconies, as you can see in the background, flat screen TVs, the stock mini bar, so on and so forth. So this is kind of the middle ground of the 70% that have verandas and balconies on the ship. I won't say you need a veranda balcony when you sail on the Paul Gauguin. You're going to have a wonderful, incredible vacation regardless. But here in the South Pacific, because the temperature year round is between mid 70s to mid to upper 80s, it really is a year round place to have outdoor access from your stateroom. 24-hour room service. You can have a dinner out there should you care to, have a glass of wine, have your morning coffee. And it's just a really nice part of the visuals and the experience firsthand. Now, in the interest of time, I won't take you through all of the itineraries we do, of course, because there are multiple destinations that we visit outside of Tahiti and the Society Islands. As Ryan mentioned, that's the cruise he took. Our base foundation itinerary that everything else is built off of is our 7-night round trip Papiete itinerary in what are called the Society Islands, which I'll go through, and that's Bora, Moorea, and so forth, where we spend 2 full days on each of those. But you can also go, as this map indicates, for 10 to 11 nights to the Society Islands and the Tuamotus. Now, the Tuamotus are reef islands. They're not the mountainous volcanic islands like the Society Islands, but amazing clarity of water for scuba and snorkeling. so forth. We also go to the Cook Islands, which are composite high islands surrounded by reefs. And that's an 11-night cruise with the Society Islands. And our longest is 14 nights. So that's going to be Marquesas, Tuamotus, and Society Islands. And the Marquesas are volcanic high islands that are not surrounded by reefs, more like the ends of the earth. It's this absolutely stunningly beautiful mountainous island group without much infrastructure there. So being on a ship to see it is probably the easiest, most convenient way. But in the interest of time, as I said, just wanted to mention those destinations. It's all on our website. Bon Voyage advisors can fill you in on those destinations as well. But the 7-night is the one I want to take you on. As Ryan mentioned, you fly into Papeete. You don't spend much time. That's the capital of Tahiti, the island of Tahiti. But the ship will depart from there shortly after most people arrive, unless they do a pre-cruise hotel stay. You'll then go to Huahine, which is our first port. You can see right in the middle of this map. That's usually on a Sunday when things are quieter. It's a good day you can rent a wave runner. You can take a walk around the port, just take a look around the ship, get to know what's where and things of that nature, meet some of the other guests and some of the staff. So it's a little quieter first day just to get adjusted to when you get there. But then day 2, pardon me, the second full day is on the island of Taha'a. And Taha'a is known first off for its vanilla, because of course traditional prized Tahitian vanilla is well known throughout the world, and about 2/3 of Tahitian vanilla is grown on the island of Taha'a here. So you can take a tour of the vanilla plantation, pearl farms, different ways of experiencing the island. But the big thing we do here on that day on Taha'a is we have an included, no extra charge for, a beautiful day on this private Motu, which is open only to the guests of the Gauguin that day. Whereas you can see on the upper right along those chaise lounges, the chairs, under the umbrellas, we have a beautiful barbecue set up under the canopy of these palm trees. And the staff and crew come out, prepare a wonderful kind of equivalent to Hawaiian luau. And our guests just mix, mingle. There's a bar there you can see below in the water, which is set up there with one of our bartenders pouring Mai Tais and other drinks throughout the course of the day. You can have many of them as you want. And driving home, we're taking you in that tender, which you see on the left there. But I love that shot too, because it shows you the clarity of the water in Tahiti is, it's like bath water in terms of temperature. It's about 80 to 82 degrees year round. So you want to be in it. You don't need a wetsuit just to swim around and enjoy it. But it's incredibly clear. It's this electric blue water within the reefs there. And it's like nothing you've ever seen unless you've been to Tahiti. Then after we leave Taha'a and that full day on the Motu and that great day that, you know, people share that experience, we then go to what some consider the prize jewel of the Society Islands, which is the island of Bora, where we spend 2 full days. So we'll get 8 a.m. into the port and then leave the following day at 5 o'clock after 2 full days there. To me, this is, to a lot of people, it's the kind of essence of the South Pacific. You can see that's Mount Otumanu in the background there with the cloud hovering over it. If you look very closely in the middle of the screen, there is the Gauguin, anchored in the shadow of Mount Otumanu and the overwater bungalows off to the side. We also here in Bora have a included complimentary excursion to this beach on this private Motu that you see right in front of you here. It's not a barbecue. It's not set up to be a big communal shared experience. It's more, we'll just have the tenders coming out here back and forth throughout the day. We're going to bring the water sports equipment, paddleboard, kayak, so you can enjoy that if you care to. But a lot of people just want to sit back under one of these bent coconut palms, relax, take a look at a view like that is one of the most unbelievably beautiful you'll ever experience. It's stunning. And I always say to people, don't bring your cell phone, not that day, just leave it back in the cabin and enjoy this experience untouched by connectivity. I always mention that James Michener, the late prolific esteemed author, traveled the world, of course, and wrote about it. He called this Bora the most beautiful island in the world. And from my perspective, it's hard to disagree. Not only would I never go against James Michener, but just from my own experience of having been there. Ryan, I hope you can attest to that. It's absolutely off the charts beautiful, and the color of the water surrounding, so on. It's a smaller island though, only 32 kilometers around. So after we leave Bora Bora, we spend 2 full days in Moorea. And Moorea is, again, of the 2 islands that people are most fixated on, I would say, and I don't use that word lightly, but really determined to see, they're Bora Bora and Moorea. So Moorea, the 2 full days we spend there, it's known for exceptional snorkeling. That's why we have that shot there. Great hiking. If you want to get out, there's a beautiful trail. It's about a 2-hour round trip from where the tender will dock, and it's spectacular, just up to the top of the mountain, looking down over Cook's Bay. So great outdoor activity, excellent, exceptional tours of the island to hear about the history of Tahiti and the islands surrounding it. So there's some great cultural experiences. We have many, many shore excursions to offer on all of the islands that we visit. So we spend 2 full days in Moorea. I won't say that Moorea versus Bora Bora, just like Hawaii versus Tahiti, one is better or not. It's all personal preference. But as I said before, Moorea is much larger than Bora Bora. So it just offers a little more diversity in terms of numbers of communities, just more places to visit and see. And it's just as spectacular as Bora Bora in its own way. So then once we leave there, we're going to be going back to Papeete after that. But first, I do want to check in and let you know again about this water sports platform marina aft of the ship. Again, the ship was designed for these islands, and this was a big part of it, to have this available to our guests. And this is for people that want to, of course, snorkel simply. Just check out your equipment here. You can use it when you go on not shore excursions, but the snorkeling excursions. Otherwise, you can just take the equipment and snorkel right off the beach to some of the islands that we visit, because the water's that clear and the lagoon water is that just full, teeming with sea life. But then the scuba Zodiac excursions go from here. And as you can see, we have stand-up paddleboarding, kayaking as well for our guests here. So plenty of recreation should you care to take advantage of that. You can be as relaxed or as active as you care to on this experience. There's no one way to do it. So I really kind of just want to go over, before finishing up shortly, really the 5 points that I hope I reiterated fairly clearly about what makes Paul Gauguin and why would you sail with Paul Gauguin. Again, it's a smaller ship that still was designed to have more people than we hold on board, but also designed for the islands, so we can get in for these much more up close, intimate views of the islands because of that shallow draft. I can't say enough about the young ladies and the young men in the Les Gauguin that provide, as it says, entertainment, Polynesian cultural activities. They're just lovely, lovely people, and you will really embrace them, and likewise, they'll embrace you during the course of this cruise. Important to point out again, there's longer port stays. The fact that we're in Bora Bora for 2 full days, we're in Moorea for 2 full days. A big difference between the Hawaiian Islands and French Polynesian Islands here, Society Islands. There are easy ways to get from Kauai to Maui to the Big Island to walk. You can pick flights throughout the course of the day schedule between those. Down here in the Society Islands, they just don't have that air service. So if you're going to try to do a week of the different numbers of ports and islands that we see for as long as we see them, it would require quite a bit more effort on your part to pack, unpack, ferry service. You'd be spending a lot more time between the islands, either on flights that aren't scheduled regularly or ferries going between them. And it's a little more challenging. I'm not saying you can't do it, but much more challenging than Hawaii. Then moving on to the deck space. Again, I mentioned that before, the ship could easily hold many more people than we have on board. So you don't have to wonder about, holding your space on deck. There's never lines. You're never going to have to wait in line for a cocktail if you're at one of the bars. Getting into the dining areas, even on our shore excursions for the tenders, you're not going to wait in a line to get on the tender, wait in a line getting back to the ship. We've really made this very, very fluid. And then finishing up with those 2 days on the Motus I mentioned, Motu Mahana off of Taha'a, and the Motu at Bora Bora, just off the island there, which are inclusive. One's the barbecue, one is just that laid back day on the beach. And you can spend half the day, you can spend 2 hours, you can spend the whole day. That's completely up to your discretion as to how much time you'd like to spend there, because the tenders are going back and forth. Now, finish with a couple of things. I mentioned the expense involved in traveling to French Polynesia in general. There really aren't too many ways to go middle ground here. You can't take a cruise down here and spend, bargain basement. You're really going to be down here experiencing a destination that's unforgettable. And I urge everyone at some point in their life to visit French Polynesia. You'll never forget it. But the fact that we're all inclusive is, I think, a key thing. Because of the fact that if you tried to do what we do at this 5+ star luxury level, staying on your own, and I'm not talking people out of a land experience at all. I think a great way to do us is to do a pre or a post for a couple of nights. You might want to try the overwater bungalow. Again, something people find incredibly enriching. But just to do what we do for that week or longer, at that point, we come in actually much less than $39.95 in our 2022 pricing. And then to compare that and to say that you could do something like that for $6,000, I would say it's closer to $7,000 just to entertainment, all the meals included, all your cocktails, wines, spirits, the private retreats that we do, the airfare included, going on and on, all those things that I've mentioned a bit. So the value of this, even being a luxury experience, the value is really, really rich, very strong. So I will finish up with this slide here, which I kind of consider the money shot of French Polynesia and Tahiti in general. That's Bora Bora again in the background, and Motu with our ship, of course, positioned nicely. That color blue that I mentioned, the one thing I stress is that photographs do not do justice to French Polynesia and Tahiti. Because once you're down there and you're seeing these visuals firsthand, that blue in the foreground there, I refer to it simply as kind of electric blue, because I've never seen a color like that in nature before, anywhere. But a photograph like this is beautiful, but when you're actually seeing it from perhaps the highest point that you can get to in Bora Bora, looking down over the coral reef, I won't bore you with my photos, but my cell phone is full of photos from the top of Bora Bora looking down at that kind of a view. And then, of course, the tropical groves of palm trees and just the untouched spirit of this destination. It's so undervisited. There's so little congestion. It's a magical place. So I'll just finish up with that by saying we would love to welcome you on the Paul Gauguin at some point without question. And it will be unforgettable. But on the other hand, whether you come on the Paul Gauguin or you simply get to French Polynesia and Tahiti at some point in your life, you will never regret a moment of it. It's a destination. I don't like to use the word bucket list because that gets overused, but just have it in your head that this is a place that I think you will never want to miss out on in your lifetime. So I'll finish up with that and just say thank you to Bon Voyage Travel. And thank you for all attending.